Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll talk about how NCBA's grassroots policy is made and hear from NCBA's president-elect about the importance of this process. Plus, hear how the Beef Checkoff has worked for more than 3 decades to increase demand for U.S. beef.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Ochsner. Thanks for joining us. From the White House to Capitol Hill to federal agencies, NCBA's policy team is engaged on every issue that could impact your cattle business. That commitment was on display at the recent Cattle Industry Convention as the government affairs team hit the stage for a DC issues update. They shared the latest information on topics like taxes, cattle markets, animal health, and waters of the United States. Of course, the Farm Bill was also a hot topic, as this critical legislation is scheduled for reauthorization later this year. During the DC Issues Update, NCBA staff made it clear they'll work diligently to make sure cattle producers have a strong voice in the writing of this new Farm Bill.
I'll just remind everyone that we have, I think, 218 members of Congress that have never voted on a Farm Bill. So we've got a lot of educating to do. It's not just important for us to talk about the things that are important to you all and the things that are in our policy book in that space, but also just reminding members of Congress how important a Farm Bill is. Obviously, money is going to be hard to come by. We're going to fight for every dollar that we can.
Now, the House Agricultural Committee has already started hosting listening sessions in order to hear firsthand from members of the agricultural community. And joining us now is Frank Stolzfus, a former national winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award and a longtime member of NCBA and a longtime friend. Frank, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, you had a unique opportunity in Harrisburg a while back to join together with other beef cattle producers and agriculturalists to visit with some representatives about your insights into the Farm Bill. Tell us more about that.
Exactly. Representative Thompson, who's now the chairman of the House Ag Committee, yes, brought to Pennsylvania, to our farm show, a group of U.S. representatives from all across the country, and he held the first listening session for the 2023 Farm Bill, and I was fortunate enough to be able to testify in that meeting, and I was very impressed with the amount of effort that they took to get there, first of all, with all the things that they went through in Washington in that week, and then to listen to us and actually ask questions of us. It was a great opportunity for agriculture to speak.
So did Representative Thompson give you any indication about his thoughts relative to the reauthorization process and the timeline for that?
He did, Kevin. He was very adamant that he was going to get this thing accomplished, get this Farm Bill passed, approved by the deadline, which is at September of 2023. Excellent. He wants it reauthorized. He wants the rules and regulations to continue on, and he's looking for input on how farmers and agriculture thinks this thing should be written.
So I'm curious, from a beef cattle producer's perspective, what are some of the things you think need to be included in this Farm Bill?
Well, I think there's some pretty important aspects of the Farm Bill that we need to have in there to stay in there. One would be conservation. We cannot be without EQIP and without the funds that it takes to have conservation put on farms and ranches all across the country. Another area is risk management. We need to strengthen the risk management portion of the Farm Bill. The livestock risk protection ruling is one that we really need to have. And then another one is animal health. We do not need foot and mouth coming into the U.S. There's provisions in the Farm Bill for a vaccine bank. Very important aspects of the Farm Bill that we need to keep going and strengthen.
I can agree more. We've seen devastation in this avian influenza in the poultry industry, and we can't have anything like that happen in the beef cattle industry. So tell me, what in your opinion is the benefit of having producers like you engage with lawmakers in crafting this Farm Bill?
Well, again, I was really respectful of them coming and wanting to hear what we had to say. Congressman Thompson said it's not about them making the rules. It's about us giving them information so they can better agriculture, so that we can function better, so that they can help us do the things that we can't do. And so I was very enthused of the questions that came back to us, of the comments that came back to us. It was a good meeting. It was a good session.
So if I'm not mistaken, it's been 11 or 12 years since you won the Environmental Stewardship Award?
Long time, Kevin.
Is that right?
Yeah, 2011.
What's your sense of the value of that program in terms of giving NCBA a stronger voice with lawmakers?
Oh, it has a lot of value. There's a lot of strength in that program, in that when you look at the award winners from over the years, more than 20 years that program's been going, and you look at the value that those conservation plans have given back, have clean water, clean air, just the whole aspect of conservation, it really means a lot to be able to have a program like that behind us, to go to these representatives in Washington and say, hey, we are on the ground, we've done this, we want to continue to do it, we just need a little bit of your help.
And my sense, it puts a lot more credibility in guys like you when they see what you've accomplished, what your commitment is to conservation. It gives you a lot more credibility when you sit in those listening sessions as you did in Harrisburg.
Yeah, I think what it does, it gives us the force of 25,000 members that NCBA has, and representing, over 150,000 cattle producers. That's a lot of value. That's a lot of force. They're going to listen.
Absolutely. Frank, thanks so much for taking time, and more importantly, thank you for representing us as a beef industry.
You're welcome, Kevin.
You can support the work being done for the beef industry by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. When we ask cattlemen and women why they value NCBA, one of the most common answers is because of the work done on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. And joining us to talk more about NCBA's efforts in Washington, D.C. is President-elect Mark Isley. Mark, tell us a little bit about your background and your family's business there in Wyoming.
Well, we're cow-calf and stalker operators there in the southeast corner. The thing that might set us apart is that was not my family's ranch. It's one I worked into when I was a young man and managed to buy into it. So as a young guy raising cattle, wanting to raise a family, I realized there were a lot of hurdles, and thanks to the Cattlemen's associations, it saved us.
Your story is an inspiring story indeed. Now, you've been chair of NCBA's policy division. Tell us a little bit about how policy is formulated within our organization.
Absolutely. It's so critical. The grassroots thing, where it starts locally, goes to maybe a local association, they move that up to the state association, bring it to NCBA, we formulate that, make sure we don't have any conflicting policies, and we move that forward, and then the officers are to help move it forward. That's our roadmap, that's our path forward, and that's really important. The producers have a say in how things are done.
As President-elect, what do you view as some of the top key priorities for the year ahead?
I think for me, one of the biggest is government overregulation in all the different arenas, wildlife, ESA, waters of the U.S. That's one of the first things. How they're handling federal lands, how they're treating the public on some of that. I think those are some of our top ones. I mean, the list is long and distinguished. Tax issues, of course. Estate planning is so difficult in this arena where they're constantly changing the rules and moving the goalposts on us.
So NCBA has an office and obviously a very talented staff in Washington, D.C. Why do you think it's so critical to have an ongoing presence in our nation's capital?
Well, that's where things are happening. Things are happening in D.C., and we have to have staff, and we've got a great staff, that goes out and develops those relationships, also gets a feel for the sense of things that are happening, the direction they may be going, and they keep us in the loop as to how we should steer the ship, so to speak, and move forward.
While it's important to have a staff and an office and a presence in D.C., it's equally important for that staff to be representing a strong membership base. Why is a strong membership base so critical to moving the ball forward in our legislative process?
My favorite theme is if there's strength in numbers. The more people we have involved, the better feel we have for it, the more support we get for issues, and the more pushback we get for issues that are hurting us. That's what it really is about, strength in numbers.
thank you for your work, and I'm certain we'll be seeing you again throughout the year.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Now, if you'd like to stay up to date on all the key issues and events from Washington, one way is by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872, or you can visit the website ncba.org. Still to come, we'll examine how the Beef Checkoff works to increase demand for U.S. beef all around the globe. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Welcome back. One important way the beef industry stimulates demand for our product is through the work of the Beef Checkoff. The $1 per head checkoff is used to encourage consumers to buy more beef through initiatives such as consumer advertising, marketing partnerships, public relations, education, research, and new product development. Let's hear from some beef producers about the value of the checkoff.
The Beef Checkoff to me is more important now than ever. More people are interested on where their food is coming from and wanting to know more about their food more than ever. And the Beef Checkoff helps with that research, helps with getting that information to the customer. And especially since COVID, people are more interested in cooking that product at home. But we have to learn how to do it again. So the Beef Checkoff has helped do that and get that to consumers who are in the city, generations separated from agriculture. So I'm all for the Beef Checkoff.
For any number of reasons, the Beef Checkoff is important. We just talked about exports. It helps us to fund developing those export markets. We've done great. People think about the promotion, which is wonderful. Our promotion is great, but also the research we've done developing better cuts. We've seen a tremendous market for different cuts once we learn how to utilize them better. We've just really driven consumer demand not only by promotion, but by helping us to create a better product to market.
The Beef Checkoff is huge, so if we don't invest in the very industry that invests in us, who's going to? And you look at, for every dollar invested, it's well over $11 return. You look at the $400, over $400 premium on a fed calf. Just think of that. And it's a $2 investment. We have an extra state dollar. So to me, it's priceless. And to me, the checkoff is too low. We need to increase that. We need to grow this beef presence in the world.
Checkoff is extremely important because it helps fund our research and promotion. And if we don't have the research to figure out ways to improve our product and the promotion to tell people why they should eat our product, then we're really limiting ourselves as to what markets we have.
The Beef Checkoff really gives opportunities for producers to be seen. It gets us right in front of our consumers and make sure that they understand that we are family farmers.
I can't go to every mom and try to explain to her how to buy this product or what product to cook for her family. With the Beef Checkoff can reach those people for me. So $1 for every head's a drop in the bucket for what you return on that.
The National Beef Checkoff program is directed by cattle producers from across the country, volunteer leaders who are nominated by their states and appointed by the Secretary of Agriculture to serve on the Cattlemen's Beef Board and help decide how checkoff dollars are actually spent. Joining us now is Jimmy Taylor. He's the chairman of the Cattlemen's Beef Board. Jimmy, tell us just a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, Kevin, first of all, thanks for having me on today. I've been ranching virtually all my life. I started going with Dad when I was about 2 years old, tag along with him everywhere. When I was 10, they decided I was old enough to go on a roundup, and we didn't have trailers back then, so we would get up in the middle of the night, saddle horses, and ride to the far end of the furthest pasture, which was about 5 miles away, ride by moonlight, and be in that pasture by the time the sun started coming up. So fast forward to today, I run about 600 females on 12,000 acres. Our labor force is myself, my wife, and we have one employee. So you could say we're a mom and pop organization. We cow-calf operation. We background our calves on the ranch, retain ownership through the feedlot, and then sell on a grid.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that background information. And tell me this, from a checkoff standpoint, why do you think the checkoff is so important to all of us as beef producers?
You know, we're at this conference, and there's a lot of meetings going on. I just got through going to the checkoff highlights. And our fiscal year started October 1st. We started our projects then, and we had our contractors tell the progress of those projects that were going on. And there's so many of them. One thing I remember from that meeting, the Northeast Beef Promotion Initiative, we send dollars from high cattle population states up to the Northeast, where there's 72 million people. And that Northeast Beef Promotion is working with the university up there, and they're partnering and getting the beef message out. They're building the base of those athletes. They're working with the athletic department. And not only there, but the message comes out during their games. They do things during the games, and they've tracked how that affects the fans of that team, and it raised their beef consumption by 14%.
Wow.
You've got that going on. Another one is United States Cattlemen is a contractor working with Kansas State University, Dr. Glenn Tonzer. They've got the Meat Demand Monitor, which monitors every month. They survey 2,000 consumers and get the trends of what the consumers are thinking. So we can take that information then and target our advertising to fit what's going on in the consumer's mind. We'll get a bigger bang for the buck like that. Another one that comes to mind is the NCBA Issues Management AR, where they're monitoring 24/7 any information coming out in the news media about beef. So if there's misinformation out there, they can get ahead of it, get the right information out there. If we would happen to have a disease outbreak like BSC, we can get the right information out there where the public wouldn't panic. So back to my herd, I pay probably around $300 a year in checkoffs. That $300, I could do very limited work with that if I could advertise a little bit, but not much more than that. But by pooling our resources together and going through the Beef Checkoff, we can do a lot more in a lot of different areas.
And that work is being effective, as we see in this rising demand for beef. You're chairman this year. What might be some of your goals for the coming year?
Well, some of my goals, we have a 101-member board. Those board members come from across America. The makeup of that board is about 60% cow-calf, 25% stocker feeder, 8% dairy, and 7% importers. So those people are varying in sizes. You heard the size of my operation. Our incoming vice chair, Andy Bishop, his cow herd number's about 75. And it's a family operation. He's got 4 kids between 7 and 13 years old, and that's his workforce.
That's right.
So, but these 101 members are very talented. And one of my goals is to get them more involved in getting that beef message out. to consumers, to producers, and we're going to work on that. We've done some of that, but we've got a lot of talent there, like I say, and I would like to get them out in the public a little more in spreading our message.
Jimmy, thank you so much for your leadership and, more importantly, the insight you've provided for us and our viewers today. We appreciate that.
You bet. Glad to be here.
To learn more about how your checkoff dollars are being used to increase beef demand for your product, go to beefboard.org and click on the Drive to subscribe to a free newsletter that highlights how the checkoff is helping beef producers. Still to come on Cattlemen, we'll discuss the latest beef export numbers and examine the opportunities for the year ahead. Plus, we'll discuss the important partnership between corn and cattle. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Weeds will rob me of my investments. The weeds are not palatable to cows. They will not eat them, or if they do eat them, some of them may be toxic. So there's a return on investment by allowing there to be more grass available to be grazed by the cattle.
Beef exports have been outstanding in recent years, and that's due in part to the work of NCBA. Joining me now is Kent Backus, NCBA's Senior Director of International Trade and Market Access. Kent, thanks for coming today.
It's good to see you.
We've had another phenomenal year of beef exports. What's driving this global demand?
Well, there's strong global demand for beef overall, but what sets us apart is that we're the world leader when it comes to that high quality grain finished beef. What we produce is unmatched anywhere else, either in volume or in quality. And so in key markets, especially in Asia, you've seen a tremendous demand for that high quality beef. And you also have other protein shortages too. So with African swine fever, a lot of the swine herd in those countries have just been decimated. Mm-hmm. And so it's created a lot of opportunities for protein sales. U.S. beef is capitalizing on that because of that strong demand, but also because of the great market access terms that we've been able to secure over the last decade.
So it has been a team effort among a number of parties. What specifically is NCBA's role in fostering that international demand?
So really, we work very closely with the U.S. Meat Export Federation, who they lead the way as far as selling our product in the country and marketing it there. Mm-hmm. We work in Washington and we work with other governments to find those trade barriers and remove them, whether it's a 40% tariff in Korea or it's a hormone ban in China. NCBA has been involved in all of those conversations, and that's really helped make the difference to open the door and then let folks like USMEF and our other partners go in and help build those sales.
Of course, we talk about places like Japan and China being real growth markets for U.S. beef, but are there other additional markets that you see some real growth opportunities in?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at exports, a lot of those cuts are just things that Americans are not willing to pay a premium for. But when we look in the Middle East and North Africa, we look in South America and other parts of Southeast Asia, there's a lot of opportunity, especially for some of those middle cuts and offals, things that just we're not really looking for when you go to the grocery store, but are in high demand in those markets.
You talk about the role in Washington, D.C., and clearly we're embroiled in this issue with GMO corn with Mexico. Why is it so important that we make certain that export policies are based on sound science?
Well, I think that at the end of the day, if you don't have objective science-based terms, then politicians can get involved and put any measure they want in place, and they can be very restrictive. We saw that after the 2003, the cow that stole Christmas. Mm-hmm. We had BSE restrictions all over the world, and a lot of them restricted the age of the cattle that we could sell. There's no scientific basis in that at all, and as a result, we lost billions of dollars in potential sales. So, science plays an important role, whether it's in animal health, food safety, or even the emerging topics like animal welfare and sustainability and climate. All of those factors have to be science-based. Otherwise, they're vulnerable to political attacks.
Absolutely. Well, if my numbers are correct, exports are adding $450 to $500 a head value in cattle. We appreciate that. We need that. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kent. NCBA's DC office is just steps away from the White House and Capitol Hill. And every day, staff members are walking the halls of Congress, working on behalf of beef-producing families like yours and mine. Help support that work and the industry's future by becoming a member. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit ncba.org. Corn and corn growers have long played an important role in the beef industry. Russell Nemitz has more on this important partnership.
Well, there's no question those important worldwide exports are critically important to beef and corn producers here back in the United States. And with us on the program right now from Colorado is a beef and corn producer himself, Troy Snyder. And Troy, this year we caught up with you during the NCBA trade show here in New Orleans at the Learning Lounge. Let's dive a little bit further into it because you and I have spoke before, but these export markets are critically important for U.S. farmers and ranchers like yourself.
They are. They're very critical. When you look at the fact that exports add $450 a head to the cattle industry, then you take it back to the corn industry and we get so much per bushel. It increases anywhere. Red meat alone is around 40 cents per bushel that it adds to our corn product. So beef cattle are around that 11 cent mark, but everything's critical there. We have to have those open markets. We have to have the ability to have free trade around the world.
And certainly those consumers around the world absolutely love that corn-fed beef from here in the United States of America.
Yeah, when you go around the world, when we were in Brussels or whether we're down in Africa, everybody's always asking, how do you guys get this done? How do you manage to feed this beef the way you do and the quality that you have? And, you look at the Great High Plains and, we have that dry, arid climate so we can have the feedlots out there and the corn production comes to us. It's a great industry that we have. Everything just goes hand in glove.
Talk about the pride that you have as an American food producer when it comes to raising this high quality corn and high quality beef.
Well, Russell, we were over in the European Union in December and we got to speak at the Collaboration Platform on Agriculture. And I would say the one thing that differentiates us from them is our commitment to feeding and fueling the world and the population of this world. And that is a great pride that we know we're doing.
You and I have talked before too, and you kind of touched on it earlier in this segment, but what would happen to you as a producer if we were to lose access to some of these critically important export destinations?
In corn alone, we export 17 to 18% of our national corn crop. So if we were to lose that export, it would just mean more corn piled up here at home. Same way with beef. We have to find a way to move things across the ocean and to feed, I think the number is 95% of the world's population lives outside of the United States. So that means our customers, most of them are going to be outside of the United States in one form, fashion, or another.
Absolutely. Again, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time for us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Again, we've been visiting with Troy Snyder, a Colorado beef and corn producer, talking about the importance of those critically important export markets, once again, to the U.S. beef and corn industry.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about the National Corn Growers Association and their efforts, just visit their website at ncga.com. Still ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll discuss mental health in rural America and let you know where you can go for help. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
In recent years, a number of organizations have started to focus more on mental health and mental health resources for people living in rural communities. Here's Russell Nemitz with more on this important topic.
Well, unfortunately, there's a silent epidemic underway in rural America. But thankfully, This silent epidemic was addressed by a New York dairy farmer during Cattlemen's College here at the Cattle Industry Convention in New Orleans. With us is Jeff Winton with Rural Minds, again, a New York dairy farmer. And it's a tough topic to talk about a lot of times in rural America, Jeff, but mental illness is a real issue and comes in many forms.
Yes, it certainly is. And what we attempt to tell people, including the audience today, is that mental illness is an illness, very much like cancer and cardiovascular disease and diabetes. And so we need to start normalizing conversations. Even though it is difficult, it should be looked upon as a disease like all the other illnesses that we do feel comfortable talking about.
Well, you told this audience, as difficult of an issue that it is to understand, there are lots of warning signs out there that we all need to pay attention to.
Yeah, some of the warning signs, especially on farms, is if a farmer or rancher decides to sell his cattle or equipment very abruptly. That's normally a warning sign that something's happening. If a farm that's normally very meticulously kept and maintained all of a sudden starts to look like it's in disrepair, that can be a warning sign. If a person who is normally very outgoing and exuberant is all of a sudden withdrawn and becomes very quiet and keeps to themselves, that many times can be a warning sign that they're dealing with a mental illness as well.
With that said, Jeff, how do we advance mental health and start addressing mental illness in all of its different forms? And in many cases, it always isn't just suicide. I mean, there's different forms of mental illness. So how do we advance overall mental health, especially in rural America?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the key thing we tell people is to make certain that stories that have impacted individuals get told. I told the audience today about the death of my nephew who died by suicide when he was 28 years old, and a dairy farmer. And by my family being open and talking about that, it allowed and gave permission to many other farm families in our area of upstate New York to start being more open and transparent about what their families had been through. Every person has a story to tell. Everyone knows someone that lives with and is on a journey of mental illness. But until such time that we become comfortable telling those stories and sharing those, it's going to be very difficult to get beyond this emergency situation we find ourselves in rural America.
Well, it truly is a silent and real epidemic, Jeff. And let's just wrap up talking about it's real. It's out there. It's affecting more people than we probably even can imagine. But bottom line, help is available.
There is plenty of help available. And that's one of the things that we are attempting to do through Rural Minds. It's on our website. We have an aggregation of all of the resources at ruralminds.org where people can go and find information that exists, training courses that exist. And people have been working in this area for many, many years, but it just hasn't been necessarily geared towards rural audiences until we launched our organization. So our goal is not to reinvent the wheel and create material that already exists, but most importantly, we're trying to get it in the hands of the people that we serve, that we represent, in the 60 million people that live in small towns across this country.
Well, we very much appreciate you being one of this year's speakers here at Cattlemen's College during the Cattle Industry Convention here in New Orleans. And please keep up the good work out there in helping all of us realize mental illness is a real issue, but more importantly, mental health is available.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure talking to you.
Again, we've been talking with Jeff Winton with Rural Minds. Again, his main job is actually a New York dairy farmer, but we can't thank him enough for being one of this year's presenters here at the Cattle Industry Convention. And as I've mentioned, folks, I mean, please, if you or someone you know is struggling, just ask for help, because your mental health and your life matters. Plenty of resources out there, as Jeff mentioned, his website, ruralminds.org, and the suicide and crisis hotline is 988.
Still ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll introduce you to another regional winner of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Get more from your mower conditioners with John Deere 0 Series mower conditioners. Cover up to 10% more acres per hour with the wider cutting width of the C500. Cut time changing knives in half with quick change knives. Mow with confidence thanks to our 5-year cutter bar warranty. Get more productivity, tractor compatibility, uptime, choices, and confidence with John Deere 0 Series mower conditioners.
This beef quality assurance tip is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Hi, Jolie Fitzsimons here to talk to you today about the Beef Quality Assurance Program and our online BQA modules. If you've been certified online before, you can now go back and look up your certificate or get recertified online. Go to bqa.org under the Certification tab to get logged in. Don't worry if you forgot your password. You can reset it on the site or reach out to customer support for assistance. If you've never been certified before, we'd love for you to head to bqa.org today and get signed up.
The Beef Quality Assurance Program is funded by the Beef Checkoff.
Recently, the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame induction ceremony was held in conjunction with the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. Russell Nemitz has more from this exciting event.
Well, each year, the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame celebrates the cattle feeding industry and, of course, those who have contributed to its overall success through the years. And this year's Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame inductee and award recipient for the Industry Leadership Award is certainly no stranger to the U.S. beef cattle industry and the U.S. cattle feeding industry more specifically. It's Dee Likes, retired Chief Executive Officer of the Kansas Livestock Association, now living in Colorado. And Dee, before we talk anymore, what are you feeling being named this year's Industry Leadership Award recipient?
Well, it's actually pretty humbling and surprising. I'm grateful and I'm honored. I have a lot of friends in this industry. I've been doing this since the 70s, so I know people all across the country, and it's really a pleasure to come back to the NCBA convention each year to see all those people.
Absolutely, and of course the other inductees being honored here in New Orleans, they've contributed as well to the cattle feeding industry just like you have.
Well, they have. Jerry Adams from Nebraska and the Barrett family from Texas. Those are long-time, heavyweight cattle feeding companies. And so this happens every year. There's a lot of good inductees already in the Hall of Fame, and I'm honored to be in that kind of company.
You know, when we talk about the overall success of the U.S. beef cattle industry, I mean, just like the other segments, nothing would be possible from start to finish without the feeders out there across this great country of ours.
Well, that's true. Cattle feeding has come a long way since I started in the 70s. There's been a lot of consolidation. There's been a lot of technological improvement. And one of the major quantum leaps forward this industry has made is with value-based marketing. It helps both ends of the chain. It helps the cow-calf people that provide the genetics, and it helps the consumer. We've improved beef hugely over the last 30 or 40 years. And so that's one of the, value-based marketing has been one of the biggest and most productive changes I've seen in my 49 years.
Back in the day, we used to run away from new technology products and services, but I'm here to tell you, as you well know, I mean, those men and women out there who are embracing all of this new and exciting stuff are truly going to be the ones to succeed moving forward.
Well, the skill sets of the past were hard work and fiscal tightness. And it looks like the major skill sets that are going to provide success going forward are adaptability and the ability to understand technology.
Anything else before I let you off the hook here or get you out of the hot seat in regards to this year's Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame event here in New Orleans and more specifically your award?
Well, if you're going to listen to my acceptance speech, be quick. It'll only be about 45 seconds long.
Again, congratulations to longtime U.S. beef cattle industry friend D. Likes, the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame Industry Leadership Award recipient, and certainly a big congratulations to not only him, but all the other award recipients that we're honoring this year at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show here in New Orleans, Louisiana.
You can find out more about the Cattle Feeders Hall of Fame and their efforts to preserve the history of the U.S. cattle feeding industry by visiting the website cattlefeeders.org. The Environmental Stewardship Award program recognizes the nation's best cattle and livestock operations for their outstanding stewardship practices and conservation achievements. These winners are dedicated to maintaining and improving their lands. Let's take a look at the Region 2 award recipient from Alabama.
Cattle and a clean environment go hand in hand. This place wouldn't be in the condition it's in and improving each year if it weren't for the cattle. Hi, I'm Will Carter from Carter Cattle Company, located in Pentlala, Alabama, just south of Montgomery. My ancestors settled on this farm around 1820, and we've been here ever since. I'm the 6th generation on this land, and my kids are the 7th. Merritt, my son, who is 12, and my daughter, Sarah Elizabeth, who is 14. They carry a lot of weight in doing the day-to-day chores, and we're thankful that they are active and that they are interested in carrying on this farm.
We also own a veterinary hospital, and the two of us are the primary veterinarians there. The hospital is a good launching point to talk to people about farming and ranching. We take that opportunity to teach them and tell them what we do, how we manage the land, how we manage cows. We welcome people to ask questions, whether it's at the clinic or at the farm. We enjoy that. We're located in the Pentlala watershed. Because the creek runs through the farm, it's really important for us to manage our land and our practices to protect that water source. We've started using electric fencing to fence out the creek and minimize the access that animals have to the creek. We've run new water lines and put in water troughs to provide a clean source of water for the cattle. It also allows us to rotationally graze.
Our business is based on growing grass. We use cattle to turn a low-quality product into a high-quality protein. So to manage our grasses effectively, we need adequate rest periods and we need even graze periods. By allowing an increased rest period with this land, that increases our organic matter significantly. So the more organic matter we can build, the more nutrients we can retain. We take fairly regular soil samples on our pasture land to make sure the nutrients are balanced, that we get adequate growth. We also keep grazing records on the cattle. It allows us to look back over a year and see where we need to adjust for the next grazing season.
I think we have embraced the calling of stewardship because we love the land. It's hard not to do something that you love, so it comes natural for us. Some days are hard, but you love what you do, and it's so worthwhile. And with stewardship, just some small practices. The things we do aren't hard, they aren't rocket science, but they make a big difference.
My hope for the future of Carter Cattle Company is that it will continue to grow and continue to improve the resources that we have been blessed to care for. You know, the saying is, we just borrow it from the next generation, and it's so true. We've got to take care of this place so that it can take care of us and the next generation and the next generation and the next generation.
Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for the award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. When we come back, we'll hear from this year's winner of NCBA's National Anthem Contest. Stay with us.
Have you taken a hard look at the performance of your cow herd? More producers are turning to the proven genetics offered by Gelbvieh and Balancer females.
We like the Balancers just because they're really good mamas, they got good feet and good udders.
So the reason that we started using the Balancer genetics is to create the perfect hybrid female. To have that composite hybrid female that lasts a long time, has moderate mature status, and highly fertile.
Moderate-framed Gelbvieh and Balancer females stay in your herd longer and offer outstanding performance.
Gelbvieh and Balancer females are really known for their fertility, for their longevity, and for the ability to raise heavy weaning calf year after year.
Make the smart, sustainable, and profitable choice with Gelbvieh and Balancer females. Find out more at gelbvieh.org. Cattlemen and women are dedicated to managing their land and cattle in a sustainable way. They want to leave a legacy for future generations. For more than 30 years, the Environmental Stewardship Award has worked to honor these caretakers of the land and to share their stories. To find out more and to learn how you can nominate a farm or ranch for the Environmental Stewardship Award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Do you have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
Welcome back. We're here at the Norbrook booth, of course, the sponsor of the 2023 National Anthem Contest winner. And with me now is this year's winner, Frankie Moscato from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm so honored to be here.
Well, congratulations. That's a huge honor to win that competition and to have an opportunity to sing our national anthem amongst all the members here at the NCBA convention. I'm curious, tell me just a little bit about yourself and your family's background in agriculture.
Yeah, I'm not a farmer, but my family traces all the way back to the Mayflower, like a lot of people can relate to that. And, but I have, it goes back 6 generations of farmers. They bought 200 acres plus of land that we still have to this day. And, my great aunt Shirley, we're best friends, and she's about 87 years old. She's so excited that I'm here today. But we have a journal together, and she writes all about our family's history, the Jones family.
Okay.
And it's so wonderful. There's a cemetery near some of our farmland, and it's 6 of our generation, so I'll be the 7th someday.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So being here, I feel really close with my ancestors, and I feel like I've made about 7,000 other family members.
And friends, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
So you're no newcomer to singing, it doesn't sound. In fact, I understand that you've actually sang at Lambeau Field, and were you on the American Idol?
I was on American Idol, yeah.
Well, tell us more about that.
Yeah, that was in 2019. That was with Katy Perry and Lionel Richie and Luke Bryan. He's big into it. He would love this.
Absolutely.
He visits Wisconsin a lot, so that's a lot of fun. But I also just love singing the national anthem. So Lambeau Field was wonderful, and even just having the privilege of singing it here is just such an honor. Singing, our nation's greatest song.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad
You had the opportunity to sing to over 7,000 people today. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I just remember walking through the stage. Everybody here, the leadership is so great. Everybody, treats us so well, and just seeing all these cowboy hats in the audience, you know, the bright lights, but you can still spot everybody. And man, you can just, I mean, like I said, you can just feel the patriotism in the air and just so much love. And I remember when I got off the stage, everybody was so kind, but they asked if I wanted to meet the Yellowstone actors, so I got to sit down for a little while. I'm glad that was after the performance. I think I would have passed out beforehand.
That's fantastic.
But yeah, such a blessing. So many inspiring mentors here.
So one thing that I'm quite intrigued by is you've already started your own foundation, is that right?
Yeah. I started in 2019. It's called the Frankie Muscata Foundation, and we focus on specifically teenagers in our area, and I just have the privilege of getting to speak to kids my age and all the way to, you know, preschool who are actually struggling with depression. And you know, we are just amygdala creatures of emotion. Our frontal lobes aren't developed until we're 25, and so we just make stupid decisions sometimes, and you know, and so I also speak to different schools and teachers and talk about hopefulness and talking to kids of how our problems are not going to last forever. And so I was just in Florida, and there were 900 superintendents and 15,000 teachers, and it was such an honor to be able to, you know, work with them and talk with them.
Share that message.
Yeah.
Well, with your voice, you have an incredible platform upon which to speak. So I wish you all the luck and keep up the good work. You're a blessing to all of us.
Well, thank you, Kevin.
Now, for more information on our sponsor, Norbrook, you can head to norbrook.com. To rewatch an episode of Cattlemen to Cattlemen or catch up on the episodes you've missed, go to YouTube and subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page. There you'll find the current week's show, and you can check out past educational segments and producer profiles from all across the country. So be sure to subscribe to the Cattlemen to Cattlemen page on YouTube. Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week, right here on RFD TV.